All right. So before actually we get started, can I just ask you guys to use the message system and just let me know how many of you are, how many of you are actively looking for a job, and any methods that you're using to search for a job. Can you share those with me and with the audience? LinkedIn. So Amar said LinkedIn. Okay. Anybody else wants to share? Hawa said LinkedIn. Tahir said he's looking for a career change. Adel said he's using his network. Great. Daryl said he's looking for a job through LinkedIn and job portals. Great. Basil said he's using LinkedIn and Bates. Great. Walid is looking for new careers. Okay. Hemnata said she just started looking for a job after over 2 years of being on a career break. Good. That's good to have a break, right? That's good. Okay, great. So I'll touch. There's a reason I've asked this, so I'll touch base on the different strategies and kind of what tends to be more successful in this case. But before we get into that, there's 5 points I want to just discuss when you're starting your journey of job search. So first, really setting your career goals. So understanding where is it that you want to go next. Why? Why? If you're changing careers, why are you changing careers? If you're leaving your current employer, why are you leaving your current employer? Doing some self-reflection, I guess, really understanding what is the next move that makes more sense for your career. Because a lot of times we kind of just going, right? And we have this tunnel vision and we said, well, we're going to go and stick with this field because this is what we've been doing, and sometimes this may not be the best choice. So maybe taking some time to reflect in terms of, what is it that you really want to do? Some of us have the luxury of time to be able to do that, others don't, and that's understandable. So just try to figure out what works best for you. If you have the luxury of time, I do recommend that you spend that time really identifying what is the best next move. Okay? Location, of course, matters. Location, industry, those sort of things. And we'll touch base on this a little bit later as well. Researching the market. So a lot of times when we are looking for a job, it's all about what we want, right? But I really would like for you to start thinking about what does the company wants? What are recruiters looking for? What are some challenges that companies are having where you can fill in the gaps? Okay, people hire people to cut costs, increase revenue. So where can you add value to where you bring business to the company? What is your value proposition? What is the highest value you can bring to that particular company? What makes you stand out from the competition? Okay, so if there's, let's say if you want to go into management consulting, what makes you stand out from other management consultants with same amount of experience, with an MBA from one of the top universities? These are the things to consider. You will find some of this information by just doing some desktop research, researching the companies, understanding which companies are hiring, first of all, which companies are recruiting, what are the recruitment trends. So when it comes to recruitment, for example, some companies, they will advertise the job online, but that does not necessarily mean that they're actually going to be hiring via online applications. Most of the time, it's the recruitment agencies, headhunters that do the hiring for them. So really understanding the HR processes and how the company does the hiring will help you in the long run in terms of, it will save you time and where to put your efforts. So if a company only works with headhunters, there's no point of looking online, right? And in this region specifically, the best two ways to get a job is through headhunters and networks. But we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail in a bit. Number 3, start develop your self-marketing. So this is your CV, your cover letters, anything, LinkedIn, any online sites that you have, and really just working on your personal brand. Those who have attended our personal brand session, I'm sure you found it very useful. If you didn't attend it, I can share a presentation with you, so do reach out. Personal brand is basically, what do people see you as an expert in? what is it when a person thinks of you, what would they call you for? What do they see you as an expert in? Okay, so this is your personal brand. And it really starts with your CV, your LinkedIn, any other online sites that you have. And CV is a good kind of is a good tool to have just in case. However, the first 2 points are really where you should spend the most of your time. The CV will come at the end. And if you do the first 2 points, so setting your career goals and researching the market well, CV is just going to be a small little formality that you will, provide to the employer. Okay. Next, so establishing and developing your network of support and contacts. So this is we'll touch base on it a little bit in more detail, but basically understanding who is it in your network that you know. So looking at your colleagues, looking at friends, family friends, looking at if you're part of any organization. So let's say professional bodies. Let's say you're part of ACCA, or you are part of even a sports team. Who do you know in those teams? Who have you built relationships with over the last years? All of you are working professionals, so you've been in the field for some time, right? Really reflecting on who is in your network that might be helpful in your job search, and not helpful in the sense that, here's my CV, let's pass it on, but helpful in the sense of just getting some information. So perhaps you're just looking to get into a new industry. For those of you who are changing careers or changing industry, it's helpful to do some research to understand what is that industry about, where can you really add value, and once again, why would the company hire you coming from a new industry versus somebody who already is in that industry. So understanding all those different points will be very helpful, and you get that a lot from your connections, from your network. Okay. And then, of course, tailoring your CV and cover letter to the requirements of the hiring manager. So 2 points to mention here. When you are working with a recruiter, oftentimes they will assist you with tailoring your CV accordingly to a particular company, because a recruiter, more often than not, make money off of you. So they receive a percentage when you're hired. So it's in their benefit to kind of assist you with that. However, with that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that your CV should be very general. So try to tailor it. However, with the recruiters, it's a little bit more flexible in that sense, because they can kind of assist you in that. So as long as you're able to sell yourself to the recruiter, preferably in person, they can assist you with that. But if you're directly applying for a company online, I would recommend tailoring your CV as much as possible. So if you're applying for 10 different companies for 10 different roles, you're going to have 10 different CVs. It's a lot of work. However, I do recommend that you have, one general CV, that you kind of have the master CV that has all of your information, all of your details, all of your experience and certifications and education. And then you have other tailored CVs based on your industry. So, for example, you have one CV for business development manager and one CV for marketing, if these are your 2 areas. If you have one area, great. But if you have more than one, then just kind of have those tailored versions, okay? And then when you're reading a job description, make sure some of the wording matches in your CV, while still being truthful, of course. And I'm saying this because a lot of times when you're submitting your CVs online, it's a system reading your CV. So sometimes it won't even get passed on to a human being because not enough words match between your CV and the job description. Okay, so that's just to keep in mind. However, I just a recommendation that you don't spend more than 5% of your overall job search applying online. So as I mentioned earlier, CV is it should be just a formality that you'll just pass on at the end. However, when you're passing on your CV to somebody within a company, there should be somebody on the other end expecting to receive your CV. Does that make sense? Any questions on the discussed points? We'll talk more about each one, but any questions at this stage in terms of your CV, creating a CV, researching the market? No questions? Okay. All right. So here is just some methods. So this webinar, I based it on a book. It's called Two Hour Job Search. It's on on a book by Steve Dalton. So he's a career guru, and he wrote this book. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It's a very quick read. Some of these slides I took directly from the book. So basically, it provides different strategies on how to best contact your target employers. So you will see on this slide here, you have method, benefits, and more benefits, I guess. So under methods, Habab, the book name is 2-Hour Job Search. It's available on Amazon. It's available on iBooks, in stores. It's a very quick read. So method number one. So under methods, you see dream employers, alumni employers, posting search, and trend following. So these are different ways you can look for a job. So when I'm talking about dream employers, so these are the top employers that you're going to have. This is your plan A, and these are kind of the companies you're going for. So let's say those, the big fours, the consulting firms, the the FMCGs. So this you can do with multiple employers, obviously, and you can just choose a number and go with that number. However, be careful, because sometimes you can go on this rampage of, looking at 40 different companies, right? And you do desktop research, and it becomes very long. So I would identify just kind of, let's say, 20 companies. I think in the book they suggest 40. You identify 40 companies, but if you start with 20, I think it's a good starting point. So because out of those 20, by the time you kind of do the filtering and do your research, brief research about the company, you're going to end up really with 5 or 7 of those who are actually hiring, who fit the culture you're looking for, who fit the maybe salary packages, maybe international exposure, whatever it is that you're looking for. So out of those 20, you're going to end up with just about 5 or 7 of those, okay? And the benefits of that is that you can do it with multiple employers. And this is really good for somebody who is looking for a particular industry. So if you're one of those people who said, I only want to work at FMCGs, or I only want to work in engineering firms, or only want to work in these type of consulting, this is the best way to approach it, because it kind of limits the search, and it doesn't get you on that endless job search. So if you're more focused, if you kind of just want to do this one thing, then this might be a good way for you to start. Next method is alumni employers. So here let's say you go on our MBS LinkedIn, and you look at our alumni, and you do it based on the alumni that are working in those companies. And why this is beneficial, because you already have automatically contact in that company. You have something that connects you to an employee of that company. And what connects you is the fact that you're both graduates of Manchester Business School. And keep in mind that when we're talking about alumni, yes, we're talking about Middle Eastern's MBS alumni who are from Dubai Center, but also look at the larger University of Manchester alumni group of graduates. So we have centers all over the world. We have main campus, in Manchester, of course. So that number is about 30,000 individuals that you can potentially reach out to, right? So these are at your disposal. And of course, this is really good for somebody if you're looking for a particular geography. If you're not really sure how to approach somebody, so if you prefer to know somebody, if you're not one of those people who can just reach out to somebody you don't know, this might be a good way, because it's like I said, there's something that already connects you, so it makes that relationship a little bit more comfortable. Okay. And also we have I don't know if you guys have used it, but we have the online alumni network, where you can actually search by company, and it will pull up a list of alumni that are working in that particular company. Or let's say you want to search by country, you want to see who's working, I don't know, in UAE or Saudi or Oman, for example. You can search by country, and it will give you a list of alumni who are residing in that country as well and working there. Okay. Any questions about the first two methods? Has anybody tried to reach out through alumni networks? Did you find it successful, unsuccessful? Unsuccessful. Daryl said unsuccessful. Do you want to share your experience, if you don't mind? About said until now, no. Okay. Walid said he used LinkedIn and looked for MBS graduates. How did that go, Walid? Basil said, does the career plan provide full alumni contacts? So to contact them. So it doesn't have the full alumni contact, unfortunately, because it just depends on whether they update their information or not. So it's a little bit tricky in that sense. However, it does have a substantial number of contacts on there. And also keep in mind if there's somebody in particular you want to get in touch with, or let's say you have tried to reach out to an alumni via maybe LinkedIn or personal contacts, and for some reason you were not successful, you can always come to us as MBS, and we can try to connect you that way as well. So this is kind of what we do as a service, is we try to connect you guys with other students and alumni in the region as well as worldwide. So keep that in mind if there's somebody in particular that you're looking to get in touch with, or a particular company. Okay. Okay, great. So Walid said that it gave him an opportunity to know new people when he used LinkedIn and reached out through alumni. That's good. And Daryl found it unsuccessful, tried to reach someone in India. Unfortunately, they were not very welcoming, probably a personal thing, don't want to generalize. Okay. And it's one of those things where all you can do is try. And, as long as you try, and, obviously you guys are all professionals, as long as you approach it in, I guess, a gentle way, there's no harm in trying. And I'll discuss some strategies of how to approach different people. Not everybody's going to respond, but the more people you try to reach, the higher your chances are of trying to get in touch with somebody, right? So it's really about how proactive you're willing to be. And Walid said he met two people. They shared with him ideas and helped. Great. So for example, here we have one person who didn't find it very successful and one person who found it successful. It's one of those things where there's an element of luck, of course. There's an element of, what's the industry you're in, what's the region you're trying to get into. There's so many different things, right? And it's really about the proactivity. So I do believe if you're proactive and you're staying active in the market, you're staying active and connected to your students and alumni, I think that there's some benefit in that, absolutely. And Daryl, if you need any help reaching out with somebody, please let me know. Let us try to help. Okay, or anybody else. If you guys need any help trying to get in touch with anybody, please do keep in mind that this is something we can do for you. Caesar said, from Hong Kong, Worsham, some colleagues were helping for a potential move to Hong Kong. Okay, great. And in Hong Kong, we have a really, really active alumni base. So, and also in Hong Kong, I don't know if you were able to get in touch with a careers person there. So if you want to get in touch with the careers team in Hong Kong, please do let me know. I'm happy to connect you as well, or any other region you guys need a person to connect with. Happy to do that. And also keep in mind, Simplicity Careers platform, you can make appointments with career advisors at each of our centers. So you can actually request a meeting via Simplicity. This can be a Skype meeting, or if you're traveling there for workshops or for work, you can also make an appointment with them, and there will be able to connect you with alumni and students in those particular regions as well. Okay. Okay, great. Yes, Caesar, I agree. They're a very, very active group of people in Hong Kong. Anyway, okay, good stuff. So let's move on. So posting search. So this is for somebody who, let's say you're in need of a job right now and you're only targeting companies that are hiring. Okay, so this is helpful because then you can just kind of go online and you look for the posting or the job role. It can go both ways. You can either look for the company that's hiring, or you can search by company, or you can search by job role. So there's kind of two different things in this posting search. So the benefits of that is that those companies are currently hiring, right? However, on the flip side, a lot of times the positions that you will be looking for, because all of you are experienced working professionals, you either have an MBA or you're in the stages of completing your MBA. So a lot of the jobs that you are going to be aiming for are going to be senior level roles. a lot of senior level roles are not advertised, and if they are advertised, it's a very niche kind of group of people that are actually going to be looked at. So once again, it goes back to really networking, connecting with people, and just really utilizing your relationships that you have in your life, in your professional and personal lives, to get that opportunity. And this is, I guess, a double-edged sword, is that yes, you're moving up the career ladder, and you're getting your MBA, and you're becoming more experienced and such. But then, as you go higher up the ladder, that talent, that pool of candidates, the pool of jobs, sorry, it gets smaller, and the candidate list gets yes, smaller, but even that list of candidates is also very full of quality, right? So you're competing against other great candidates. You're competing against other, top professionals and top MBA students in the region. So that pool of jobs gets a little bit smaller. The pool of opportunities gets smaller, and the opportunities that are available tend to go away very quickly, because they're filled very quickly, because they're filled a lot of times based on connections that those candidates have with the hiring manager or the hiring company. Okay, so once again, just going back and emphasizing the importance of networking and building relationships. Okay, and this is good. This is good for somebody if, once again, you're looking for a specific role or job title, or you're not flexible with relocation and those sort of things. Okay, and the final one is trend following. So these are, let's say, your startups. Excuse me. So these are your startups, for example. These are new things coming up, new trendy things. I don't know if maybe anybody wants to share about what's a new trendy thing popping up these days. Maybe somebody wants to share that. I know, like, I think like over the last couple of years, it was always like these, everybody wanted to go into entrepreneurship, and now entrepreneurship is this big thing. So a lot of people are following those sort of things. Then there was the Ubers, the Facebooks, the LinkedIns, right? So these are the kind of trend following methods that we're talking about here. And this is good for this. I mean, it's good because first, if it's a new kind of market, if it's something like a startup, the opportunities there are quite vast, in a sense that there's a lot of opportunity to grow. However, it's also very risky, right? But there are opportunities to grow with startups. There's also an opportunity to learn a lot. There's an opportunity to kind of be involved in different areas of the business. And this is really good for somebody who is looking to switch careers. So let's say you're completely switching careers or switching industries. It might be a little bit easier to enter these type markets or smaller companies versus going into the big companies or the big fours, where perhaps you don't have industry experience in or specific job role experience in. Yeah, so this is the trend following method. Any questions about that? And Adel said, yes, noticed that a lot of alumni have launched their own businesses. Yes, absolutely. And to be honest, this is kind of one of the reasons that people pursue an MBA, right? Is that either for career progression, career growth, or to launch their own business. And I think it's one of those things where, because you're back in academia and you're learning a lot of things, and you're sharing the classroom with a lot of intellectual people and people from different backgrounds. So it kind of sparks ideas, and it gives you that motivation, because you're in that learning environment. So a lot of people come up with business ideas, or they act on their business ideas they had from the past. So it's definitely a trend for MBA students, absolutely. Does MBS, Adel also asked, does MBS offer a coaching to launch its own business as a career? We don't directly offer the service. How we can definitely connect you with somebody who delivers such services. So reach out to me on a separate note. Let's see who we have in our network that we can get you in touch with. Whether it's for free or not, it depends on who we're talking to. So let's just let's talk about it on a separate note and see what we can do. We do have alumni who are mentors and coaches. So also perhaps that's somebody you can get in touch with. But reach out to me. I'm happy to continue this discussion. Okay, so any questions about the methods? So we have the dream employers, the alumni employers, posting search, and trend following. Anybody tried, or out of these four, I guess, what have you tried, if anything? Anybody wants to share? No? Okay, well, if you want to share, we're here, so feel free to share. We'll move on. So how to make contacts. So I talk a lot about networking. I talk a lot about building relationships. Excuse me. Um, but how do you do it? How do you reach out to somebody, right? So of course, the first step would be reaching out to people you know. So these are friends, family of friends, elevator conversations. You never know who you're going to meet in an elevator, right? Which is why they came up with elevator pitch. In case you're ever in an elevator with the CEO of a company and you need to sell yourself very quickly, right, and impress them so that they will give you their contact or their card. This is where that came from, the elevator pitch, right? So of course, if the first that makes sense is to really use your network, MBS students and alumni, colleagues. And another thing I would recommend, if you have ever been approached by a recruiter in the past, even if it was 2 years ago, or recently would be more beneficial, of course, but even if it was a while ago and you were approached by a recruiter and perhaps that recruiter was interested in your profile, or there's an HR person that you know that you've interviewed with in the past, in a company that you now might be interested in again or something like this, it's worth a while to touch base with those people. So anybody you've ever spoken with in the past, anybody that was interested in your profile, definitely touch base with them again, even if it was a while. It's always worthwhile because those people were interested in you before. The chances are they'll be interested in you now, especially now that you have more experience, further in your career, further with your MBA, or completed an MBA, or started an MBA. So definitely reach out to those people. Alumni, hiring managers at particular companies. Social media is a good one. Social media is becoming more and more acceptable in terms of reaching out to people. So LinkedIn is definitely a good one to use, especially in this area. In other parts of the world, it really depends on regional kind of do's and don'ts. But if you are looking to make contact with somebody in different regions, do let us know. We can connect you with somebody from those particular regions that you can get advice on. Um, you can, of course, do direct emails or phone calls. So there's many ways you can reach out with somebody, and we will discuss how to best do that. Another way you can reach out to somebody is have a friend or acquaintance refer you to that individual. However, keep in mind that people refer people, of course, that they trust and they like, and they value their areas of expertise. And it's the reputation of the person referring you on the line, right? So you want to be prepared. So if anybody refers you to a company, make sure that you're prepared. You're not asking general questions, which brings us back to kind of doing that desktop search, desktop homework. As I like to say, it sounds boring and it's time consuming, and it is, but it's something that's necessary to be done in order for you to prepare to meet anybody at any company, to be honest with you, and to really make an impression and really understand what is the company looking for, what are the challenges, where you can add value, and those sort of things, okay? When it comes to cold email, so how many of you have sent a cold email before or have tried? And others said personal branding, professional networking plus personal networking is the magic formula. I couldn't agree more. I agree. I don't think that the personal branding and the networking is a formula for success, if I can say so. So absolutely, and I think yes, it is time consuming, and it's one of those things where you need to really work on your personal brand, understand your personal brand, present yourself in a certain way, and the networking part. It's not just networking. Hey, here's my business card. No, it's building a relationship. It's maintaining those relationships. It's following up with people that you have met, right? It's staying in touch, because once again, nobody refers somebody unless they know you, they like you, they trust you, right? So how can you get somebody to know you if you've only met them once at a conference and then you send them your CV, right? It just doesn't work that way. So yes, absolutely, I think it's about networking and really personal touch, more than anything in this case. Plus the MBAs are added. Yes, absolutely, the MBA. But once again, a big part of MBA is the network, right? So yes, you get the knowledge, you get the academic portion of it. You really start to think in a different way. You start to look at things differently. But other part is the people you share in the room with. It's just understanding how everybody thinks. How does an engineer think compared to an IT guy, compared to a marketing manager? Understanding how those people think, because these are, first it's the knowledge you gain from those in your classroom. Second, it's the network you build. So how often are you going to be with, some of the top senior people, let's say some companies? How often are you going to be sharing classroom with them? This is all building relationships. And although I know that you guys are always very busy during workshops, and I know there's very little time for any kind of fun or grabbing a coffee, I do recommend that you make time for those things. You make time to establish solid relationships throughout your program. So every workshop, make time for some social gatherings, either before or after workshop. Make time to get to know people on a personal level, aside from what they're doing the MBA for or where they're working. So these things, MBA is a large part of it, is about the network that you're building. As I said, all true opportunities I got came from me, from personal network and from a headhunter that contacted me. Yeah, and headhunters are also a great way to get an opportunity. And if you need a list of headhunters in the region, I have a list that you might find useful. So please reach out. I'm happy to share it with you. But once again, with headhunters, another point I would like to mention before we go on is that it is your responsibility to follow up with them. Oftentimes, we think that, oh, well, they're going to make money off of us. And yes, they are, but they can make money off of you or somebody else. So, stay on top of them. It's your job to follow up. Make sure you sell yourself to them. Make sure that you remind them about you, even if they don't have anything available at a particular, let's say, month. Stay on their mind. Let them know that you're actively looking, so that they keep you in mind as well, because recruiters, they get hundreds and hundreds of applicants and CVs. So you'll be doing them a favor by staying in touch with them, and you will stand out this way as well. Okay. Anyway, anybody send cold emails? No, I hope not. I mean, it's not the most recommended way, right? But all the cold emails sometimes work. It really depends on who is it you're emailing. So general rules for cold emails: fewer than 100 words. You don't mention a job anywhere. Connection goes first. So by connection, I mean, let's say if you're emailing an alumni, you can say something like, in the subject line can be, for example, MBS alumni connection, right? And then in the text you can say, hey Adel, I'm a recent graduate of MBS. I see you also studied MBS. It's great to be in touch. I'm also residing in the UAE. We should catch up over coffee sometime. I don't think we've met before, etc., etc. You get my point. And kind of generalize your interest. Basically, this is what I just mentioned. And maintain control follow-up. This is a very important point. So when you send a cold email, if somebody you never met before, or maybe a person or a particular company, when you send an email, so you give them a little, like, hundreds of words or less of hi, an MBS alumni, et cetera, and then at the last sentence you can put, listen, I know it's a busy time. I understand that you might not be able to respond to my email at this time, so I'll follow up next week and see, perhaps it might be a better time to get in touch. Okay, because that first, it kind of shows respect for the person's time. Excuse me. It shows respect for the person's time, right? Second point, it kind of takes the pressure off of them to follow up, because perhaps at the time that they're reading your email, they want to respond, but maybe they just don't have the time at that particular moment to respond. So at least it kind of lets them know that, hey, in case they forget, you're gonna come back to them anyway. So it's kind of like a courtesy thing, and it's professional. It's a nice way to do so. And somebody say, would LinkedIn message be more productive than cold emails? Amar, this is also something you can, a LinkedIn message can be a cold email. When I say cold email, I don't mean a direct email to somebody's email address. This can be also a message on LinkedIn, and definitely. Yes, Basil. So this is also can be included in LinkedIn messages, and this is where I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend, to be honest with you, to send it to a specific email address. I think the LinkedIn is a little bit more personal approach. You can send it to an email address, but you know how emails go. There's only so many good times throughout the day that you can actually send an email and get people to actually open it. So it's a little bit, I think, more beneficial to use LinkedIn. Okay, any questions about this slide in particular? Excuse me. Okay, so here I'm giving you just some sample emails. So the first email here, so the one on the left-hand side, this is an email, a sample email you can send to an MBS alumni. The one on the right is an email you can send to, let's say, somebody you found their profile interesting, perhaps somebody you look up to, whatever it is. So on the left side, we'll start with this with the alumni. So it's basically the things I mentioned in the previous slide. So here, this person is requesting a time to speak about their experience with IBM, right? So you're not asking for a job. You're just looking for some information, and you're specifying 20 minutes. So it's not that much time. So hopefully, somebody will respond to this, right? And I'm curious to know if you have tried this approach, and if you have tried this approach or similar, has it worked? Has it not worked? What was the response? So if anybody wants to share, please do share your experiences. On the right side, you have somebody who you don't know, and it's just a cold email via LinkedIn. Okay, and this is a person that you are perhaps just wanting to know about, connect with them, and they work at IBM. And if you are an MBA student, this is kind of a good starting point. A lot of times people want to talk to MBAs because it's like an opportunity for them to give back, an opportunity for them to teach somebody something. So some people tend to be a little bit responsive when you state that you're an MBA student. Okay. Another way to approach somebody you haven't really met is you can say, "Hey, I see you work at IBM. I see, IBM is currently working on this project. This looks very interesting. Would love to have 10 minutes of your time to kind of ask you some questions about it," or something along those lines. So, or let's say you're this speaker. Maybe you saw an article about them, and you can say, "Hey, I've really liked your article. I really like the point that you discussed on ABC topic. Would love to do just a follow-up with you on that particular article that you've contributed to," something along those lines. You get my point, right? Is that clear, what I'm trying to say here? And Basil said, he remembers he did this for the one time for the sake of taking advice of a consultant about a matter in the business. It was very decent and practical way to have help. Okay, so did you find it successful, Basil? Were you able to get in touch? Yeah, so it was good. Good. So it's good to hear. Yes, like I said, some people respond, some people won't. But the more people you reach out to, the higher your chances are to actually getting somebody on the phone. And it's a win-win situation. So you're not asking here for a job, right? But it's just an opportunity for you to learn about the company or a particular project the company is working on, because it gives you that knowledge. So when you do meet with an HR person later on, for example, or with the CEO, you have a point of discussion. Two, you can ask questions about the organizational structure, the culture of the company. How do they, maybe at some point you can ask them, how do they do the recruitment? What are the recruitment trends? So that conversation can start off as something else, but then naturally it will go into conversation about opportunities. The person who you're speaking with, if they gave you a chance to speak with them, naturally they will ask you about your background. And then there goes that kind of building of a relationship. And of course, this is not the end point. This is just the beginning. So this email is just to get somebody on the phone with you. The next step would be to say, listen, it was a great chat. You follow up with them, say, listen, thank you so much for your time. I learned so much. I really, really appreciate it. Would love to treat you to coffee if if you have some time. and then there goes that building a relationship, and next thing you know, ideally you'll be passing on your CV to this person, right? Or at least you will find some valuable information about a particular company. And then worst case scenarios, even if that company is not hiring, still this person is already in that field, so they have connections, right? So if you impress them enough, so if they've made an effort to speak with you, the chances are you have a good opportunity to build a relationship with them. So build a relationship, keep that relationship, and as I mentioned, naturally the conversation about job search will come out, and perhaps they can recommend you to somebody, other colleagues, etc. So just this is and I do believe it's beneficial. I think from the experience of some of our students and alumni and my personal network and professional network, this is one of the best approaches to a job search. I'm talking. This is in regards to kind of cold emails. Okay. Any questions about the sample emails? Okay, so feel free to ask questions if you have any, but we'll just move on for the sake of time. Networking. So I've touched base on this throughout the presentation, but in this particular market, networking is definitely key, and not just networking, but really the building of those relationships. And also looking at the relationships you already have. Sometimes all it takes is to ask for help. And oftentimes, especially I see it with senior individuals, senior level individuals, is that the higher up the ladder you go, the more you're usually the person people come to for help, right? So when you are in the shoes of a person who's asking for help, it can be a little bit, it can be uncomfortable, right? And it's not something that comes naturally to people, and it's understandably so. However, sometimes all it takes is to ask. And all it takes is to let your network know that you're looking. Okay, so really looking at who you know, who knows you and your personal brand, who knows your areas of expertise, who knows your work. Look at those, and I'm sure that if you just look at the network around you, there's going to be somebody who's going to be able to help you. But unless they know, they cannot help you. So sometimes asking for help is all you really need. Okay. Any questions about networking? Also, it's very helpful. I mentioned this briefly earlier, but if you're part of any organization, professional bodies, professional organizations, they also host various networking events. They can also connect you with people, just as we do at Manchester Business School. They can also connect you with their members, other members. So definitely keep that in mind. You're paying a fee to them for their network. Yes, for the knowledge they provide you, but also to be part of that network. So use that network. It's part of the service of any professional body or organization. So take advantage of it. That's what it's there for. It's there for you to use. And another thing I wanted to mention about networking. And it slipped my mind. Sorry about that, it slipped my mind. Habab saved me with a question. Good. Habab asked, do you advise to send many cold emails or limit to certain numbers, or keep sending emails until I get a response? Good question. So, sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. So, one point I would like to mention, when applying to jobs at any companies, apply to one job in one company. Don't apply to 5 jobs in one company. I hear people do this sometimes, so please don't do this. This is not the best way to get noticed, okay? So definitely one job per company. Be very focused. Go for the job you're most qualified for, okay? When it comes to cold emails, when you send that first email that we discussed, right? So here, when you send this email and at the end of the email you say, I recognize this might be a busy time for you, etc., etc. Let me try to reach you next week. If you don't get a response from this person, you owe them to send them one more email, right? Because you told them you have to follow up on what you said. So next week at the same time, the same day next week, you send them an email and saying, hey, as promised, just wanted to follow up on the email I sent you earlier. Perhaps this is a better time to get in touch with you, would love to have a chat with you, etc., etc. Okay. If you don't hear from them the second time, then you have a choice. You can either try them again by phone if you have a phone number. Okay, you can try by phone, or you don't, or not try, or just let it go from there. But don't do past this. So 2 emails and a phone call maximum. That's it. If they don't respond, they don't respond. Okay. So, and also you don't want to waste your time and keep emailing them. And, if they don't want to, because typically, so 9 out of 10 times, people who want to respond will respond to you within 3 to 6 days after you send the first email. Okay. So this is just kind of on average, roughly this is what you're going to get. So if they don't respond after the first one, and definitely if they don't respond after the second one, the chances are you're not going to get in touch with it. And if at some point they respond, that's fine. Then you continue the conversation. But no, don't do anything past that. Okay. Good question. Thank you for that. And another thing also on when it comes to LinkedIn, so I personally get a lot of these emails, and I think simply because I have a careers in my title. Somewhere in my title it says careers. So people tend to send me their CVs, and I get this often where they copy everybody, and they send the CV. Please don't do this, and I'm sure you guys don't do this. I'm sure you don't, but make it very tailored to each individual. Make it very personal. Add a personal touch, that personal connection if you have a connection. Flattery works. So sometimes let's say if you heard somebody speak, or once again you read something in an article, you can always start with a compliment, right? So just keep those kind of things in mind. Another thing to consider is that if you're sending cold emails to a company, I wouldn't necessarily recommend sending an email to, let's say, the CEO of a company, because obviously those people get emails tons of times. Those people get flattered all the time. They always have people complimenting them about different various things that they've done. All right. So I would try somebody who is in a managerial, directorial position, somebody who is a little bit more approachable, I guess. And oftentimes CEOs don't check their emails. It's usually their secretaries or PAs that check their emails. So you want to reach somebody who's kind of, mid to senior level, or so you have a better chance of getting in touch with somebody and getting the information. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Another thing I want to mention is that, let's say you are at a networking event, or you're going to an informational interview. So an informational interview, for those who don't know what it is, so basically an informational interview is what you're asking for in the email samples that we just looked at. So it's just an opportunity for you to ask questions of a person who's working in a particular company that you're interested in. Okay, so it's called informational, and there's just you getting information about a company. It's really as simple as that. So it's not them interviewing you, it's you interviewing them. In the Western world, it's very popular. In the Middle East, it's still kind of new, so people are not as open to these things. However, in the US and Europe, this is a very popular approach, and it works. Here, it's slowly being introduced, and people tend to be a little bit more open about, talking to somebody about a particular field or project, etc. So these are the questions you can ask if you don't know what to ask, if you're not, a natural networker and you don't really know how to start a conversation, but you really want to know about the company. You can ask these questions here. I'm not going to read them, but you guys can read them to yourselves. And also I'll share this presentation with everybody so that you can have this with you in case you want to just kind of glance at it as a reminder. Anybody wants to share their experiences with networking? What works, what doesn't work? Anybody have had an informational interview that they want to share information about? Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? Did it end up in an opportunity? Or how did it go? If anybody wants to share, please do share your experiences. And as you can see, these are the questions that are really focusing on you getting more information about how you can add value, ultimately, it's really just asking for advice, and people tend to like it when somebody asks them for advice, right? So at the end of the day, it's just another human being you're talking to. So just think about, if you were in that person's position, what kind of questions would you like to hear from somebody who is looking to get into your company, or trying to learn about your company. So just try to look at yourself from a third person perspective, and put yourself in that situation. Anybody have any questions about this particular slide? Okay. Adel said his advice is to try to find from your network if there's any openings or anything that might be happening that meets his interest or CV. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, absolutely. Goes back to really asking, letting people know that you're looking, and letting people know that you're looking, making it easier for them to help you, asking the right questions. So absolutely, these things are beneficial. And also, I think that being more focused in your job search. So let's say if you're asking somebody about a particular company, it might be beneficial to say, listen, is this particular department hiring, right? So making it easier for people to help, because oftentimes, and I don't know if maybe this happens to you guys, but sometimes you have people asking you like, oh well, can I have a job in your company, or is your company hiring? So, and obviously if it's a large company, you're not always going to know which particular department is hiring, right? So if the person can ask more focused questions, let's say, is your marketing department hiring, or do you know anybody in the marketing department, or what does it feel like to work in a marketing department, how is that structure like, etc. So being a little bit more focused, a little bit more specific, making it easier for people to help you, making it easier for people to identify what is it that you're looking for, so they can keep their ears and eyes open for any opportunities in that particular area that might pop up. Okay. Adel also added that this will be easier for your contact to link you with the right person. Absolutely, exactly. I think I really do believe that sometimes it's just worth asking, and once people know that you're looking, and perhaps not necessarily they're going to have an opening at that moment, however, they will keep you in mind, and when the time comes, hopefully you'll be one of the shortlisted candidates for an interview. Good point, Adam. Anybody else have any questions? I think this is the end of the slides here. Yeah. Any questions? I mean, there's no one way to approach a job search. I think that it's really about how proactive you're going to be. So I do recommend the approaches that we kind of discussed, because these are the ones that tend to be more successful. If you're going to spend your time looking for a job, this is really where you want to put your efforts in. There's nothing more frustrating than applying to online job postings, posting after posting. It becomes very frustrating. Often enough, your CV will not be reviewed by any human being at all. It will just be lost in a database of the cyber world, or wherever your CV goes to. A lot of times when you see on LinkedIn where it says, oh, this many people applied for a job, and out of those like 500 people, only two to five people will actually be looked at, because those 2 or 5 people know somebody in that particular role in that particular company. And also put yourself in the shoes of an HR person. Why would they want to interview a person they don't know anything about? Because I mean, it will make their job easier. I mean, sorry, it will make their job harder. They prefer to interview somebody who is referred to them, who they know this candidate is a good match. This person might match the culture because of the person who referred them told them about them. So it makes an HR person's life easier. So think like a recruiter, think like an HR person. They're looking to tick certain boxes. Make sure you're ticking those boxes. Okay. Kabab asked, how can we connect to Simplicity platform? Send me an email. I'll send you directions on how to access it. Okay. Happy to do that. Another thing I wanted to mention, yeah. So just if you're going to spend any your time on job search, networking, working with headhunters. If you really want to apply online, and if you're just really eager to do that, you can do that. Absolutely, it doesn't hurt to do that, but minimum time. So 5% of your job search should be through online applications. Okay, and also make sure that your LinkedIn, especially in this region, recruiters use LinkedIn a lot. Make sure your LinkedIn is updated. Make sure that you stay active. This is all part of your personal brand. Make sure that the messages you're sending across match your personal brand. Make sure that you have a professional photo there. Stay active. Stay active. Comment on people post. Post articles in your particular area related to your area of expertise. Okay. Daryl asked, how would you recommend approaching a person network with regard to switching industry? From my experience, in the Middle East isn't warm towards skill-based hiring, rather more towards industry experience. Yeah, you're correct. So when you are, usually when you're changing careers or jobs, there's 3 different areas that you might look into changing, right? So you're looking into either changing geographies, changing job roles, or changing industries. So if you are if you're changing all 3, it becomes very challenging. So if you're a person who's looking to relocate, change your job role, and change your industry, it becomes very challenging. If you're only looking to change, let's say, a region and industry, less challenging, right? But still challenging. So trying to focus on one of those areas. So let's say you're only looking to change industries. That's really going to need to be focused on networking because otherwise, once again, unless somebody knows your profession and they're just going to give you a chance, why would they hire you versus somebody who has experience in the industry? And you're right, here, especially in this region, a lot of people like to see regional knowledge and industry-specific knowledge. However, have I seen, and I'm sure all of you guys have seen this as well, have you seen people who are coming from other industries and taking on high positions? Absolutely. But how do those people get there? Through connections, through networking, through somebody knowing them personally and knowing that, yes, even though they're coming from a different industry, they're still able to deliver and to make the business successful, right? So with that being said, another useful thing to do is to find somebody, perhaps even students, alumni, or friends, and ask them how was their journey? What does it look like for somebody who switched, let's say, from engineering to a more general management role? Or somebody who is going from, FMCGs to real estate or something. Those sort of things, definitely asking people, and it's just simple, just asking that question, just asking about their journeys. It's honestly, it's that simple. Another thing I wanted to mention, sorry, just a second, I'm just reading your comments. But yes, Daryl, you're absolutely right. In the Middle East, it's a little bit different. But once again, I think that if you're able to have those personal connections, it makes it a little bit easier. Okay. Does that answer your question? Habab had another question. I'm very inactive on all social network, even I don't have a Facebook. Do you think LinkedIn is enough if the companies to know more about me? They need to. Yes, I think in terms of job search, LinkedIn is the best tool. I don't really see people using Facebook as much. Facebook is more on a social level, connecting with friends and family. Yes, the company will Google you if they're looking to hire you or something. They will Google you. In that case, you want to make sure your Facebook is shaped up and make sure that it doesn't have any mixed messages there. However, when it comes to actual job search, I think LinkedIn is really the only tool you need in that case. I don't think you really need more tools. I think just LinkedIn, attending events, these sort of things. And Dara said, yes, it does answer the question. Just made me realize it's more difficult than what I thought. Yes, and job search. So it's not. I don't think that it's difficult. I think there are challenges, and there is an element of luck. But once again, you increase your chances of good luck if you're staying proactive, if you're attending events, and those events that make sense, of course. I mean, a lot of the events that MBS puts on, for example, and for those of you who are in the region, next week we have an event on digital media and growing your business. First, it's a very interesting topic, right? We have a great speaker coming for that. So if you're in the area, definitely attend. And a lot of those events that we host, it's an opportunity to network. It's an opportunity to learn from each other, to network. You never know who you might meet. It's also the event season in Dubai. There's tons of things happening, tons of conferences, tons of events, whether fun and social or business, corporate. Look at the Dubai calendar in general and see what's happening in your area. Look at, again, your network, your industry, what is happening in your industry. And there, if, um, uh, or who, I forgot who asked me about changing industry generally. I think you did. For somebody who's looking to change industries, attend events that are hosted by industry, the new industry you're trying to get into. And talk to people about those. And when you're attending those events, it's not necessarily that you need to be very, formal and everything is an opportunity. Yes, everything you can look at everything as an opportunity, absolutely. So, but you can always attend it as a tester and just ask people questions. Just use some event as an opportunity to ask questions. To where yes, an opportunity might come out of it, a job opportunity, but even if it doesn't, ask all the questions you want, get information from the people in that industry, and be very direct. Say what how does your company view somebody who doesn't have experience in this industry? Ask very direct questions. Also, career fair that we hosted, we had one in May and we had one in September, and we're going to have one in the spring. We're going to have a big one in the spring, so definitely try. It's going to be in March, so definitely try to attend that. So those career fairs. So although not perhaps everybody is going to get a job out of those career fairs, but the point of the career fair that we host is also to talk to recruiters. So talk to recruiters and ask them, what does it look like for somebody in, let's say, X industry to change to Y industry? Everybody's going to have a different answer, but the more feedback you get, then you can make an educated choice of what makes sense for you. Or you can also benchmark yourself against your peers in that industry. You can understand, is this realistic? Is this a mistake to move here, or perhaps do I need to kind of, are there going to be trade-offs? Because anytime you're changing industries, there are going to be trade-offs. So you might not get as high salary or package, right? But is that a trade-off you're willing to take? Or let's say if you only chance to get into a particular industries to move locations, perhaps within the GCC or internationally, are you willing to do that? So what are your priorities? These are the questions that I would ask. So these are the questions to consider. And Adel added, there was lately a career fair. It was a great initiative, but there was no companies focusing on IT technologists. They were supposed to have but no one showed up. Is there any place to have more career fairs focusing on management consulting, information technology? Yes, absolutely. We're going to have a larger career fair, larger in terms of the kind of companies that we're going to bring on for the next one in March. But the one in May, we had quite, I think, a variety of companies. Adel, I don't know if you attended the one in May, but we had quite a variety of companies. We had double the number than we had in September. And I'm looking to increase that number and diversify the industries that we will be bringing on in March. So yes, absolutely, there will be more of those sort of initiatives. And I wanted to mention another thing, Adel, but also once again, Adel, if there's any particular company you're looking to get in touch with, or just to get information, perhaps we can help. So do reach out, and let's see what we can do. Daryl said, I have an off-track question for networking. It's usually exchange business cards. What about making personalized card. I joined the Kuwait-based business networking group, and I noticed there were many higher management members who exchange personalized cards rather than their company cards. I see it as a positive that probably can be used as a tool to express your skills rather than the company you're in. Am I thinking right? Yeah, so I think it's up to you really. I do see that often as well, exchanging kind of the personalized cards, and a lot of people have that. So a lot of people have their professional cards and they have their personalized cards, and that's part of their personal brand. So it's completely acceptable. I mean, as long as it's okay with your company, or if it's not a company related networking event, in that sense, that's the only concern I would have. But in that sense, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think, as long as it's a professional looking card, it speaks of your personal brand. Why not? It's your personal brand, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Don't think to consider if it's let's say if it's your current company sponsored event or something along those lines. Maybe be careful about that just for the sake of your current employer. And your reputation with them. But even with that, to be honest with you, I don't see anything wrong with that. And a lot of people do this as well. Yeah, and Daryl, yes, informal events, absolutely. I think it'll be good. Absolutely, it's part of your personal brand, so why not? And it also adds that personality, right? We're not just our titles, and titles oftentimes, depends what your title is, but oftentimes I think a title doesn't describe somebody, right? It's about what is the value that you're adding to the company. What is it that you do? I think when people introduce themselves by title, so unless you're the CEO or director of a department, something that's uh, more specific that makes sense. It's good to introduce yourself, but some titles don't make sense. I remember on Business Breakfast, I think they were talking about titles, and they were making a joke on Dubai Eye Radio, and they were talking about. They said some titles don't make sense. You don't know what they mean. So I think that the whole exchange of business cards. Unless you establish that relationship with somebody, business cards not going to make them remember you. So I think focusing also on really building that relationship and then exchanging a business card at the end just as a formality to kind of stay in touch with that person is the best approach. So yes, I think the personalized cards kind of add that, first that personality and really tells people what is it that you do, what is it that you're expert in. Now, Daryl also says, a long shot, would you know any source guide about how to effectively create personalized cards? Maybe some food for thought. Um, I recently came across something on this topic. Let me look it up. Let me see. Reach out to me separately. Let me dig into my resources and see what we have. But I did come across something. Uh, yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. Absolutely. I think there's a few tools I can recommend. So reach out separately. Let's see what I can find. Excuse me. Any other questions? I know we're over time at this point, but if anybody wants to chat, if anybody has any information, please. I'll stay for a few more minutes, so please let me know. I'm also sharing my email address as Habab requested. So here's my email address. So feel free to reach out. And also, there are going to be still a few more events coming up. The digital media, like I said, if you guys are in the area, please do come. Tomorrow we have a face-to-face workshop in MBS classroom. So once again, if you're in Dubai, do stop by. We're going to have a discussion topic on 4 steps to a successful career in the new economy. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to touch about elevator pitch as well. We're going to talk about who you are as a leader, these sort of things. So we have a lady coming. She used to be a business partner at an executive search firm, and now she runs leadership type tours around the world, where she brings in senior executives to go on these leadership kind of workshops abroad. So she's quite knowledgeable in this area. It's at 6:30. Yes, Adel, it's at 6:30. Probably starting around 6:45, 7 o'clock, assuming there's probably traffic. So if you're here by 7, that would be great. And it's an MBS classroom in Knowledge Village. So Definitely join us if you're in the area. And thank you for joining. Thanks for your time. I hope you found it useful. Yes, at the Knowledge Village, Block 2B, Office F16. Great. See you there.